All right, diving into Mel Robbins' Let Them theory today. We're going deep with her book and a few other things, really getting into this whole idea of like taking back control by letting go, which I don't know about you, but it feels kind of contradictory to me.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? But Robbins doesn't just tell you to let go and leave you hanging. She brings in the science of stress and, the whole how get motivated thing, gives you a real framework to actually get why it works, why letting go is so powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely not about just ignoring problems, for sure. It's more like being smart about where you put your energy and your focus, too, I guess. And she starts the book with this story about her son's prom. Can you imagine trying to get, like, dinner for 20 teenagers all last minute?
Oh, that's a nightmare scenario for sure, especially for a parent. But it's such a good example of how we stress ourselves out, trying to control things we can't even control in the first place. Like, those teenagers were probably fine just getting tacos, even if it was raining. But Robbins was stuck on having this, like, quote-unquote perfect night, you know?
I totally get that. I'd be the same way, honestly. But that's where she had that aha moment, right? That's how the whole let them theory came to be. It's not about being totally passive. It's more like realizing you don't get to control other people, their thoughts and actions and all that. But what you can control is yourself, what you do.
Right. You hit the nail on the head there. And that's where things change, where you actually get power. It's like Robbins uses this seesaw analogy. When you try to control others, you're pushing down on one side, basically making yourself weaker.
So if you're constantly trying to force things, you're just going to keep losing your balance. But when you say let them, it's like, what? You're getting off the seesaw completely?
Exactly. You're not playing that game anymore, that power struggle.
Yeah.
And that's such a relief. I mean, think about it. You're not carrying the weight of what other people expect, what they judge you for. You're accepting that you can't make someone change or agree with you or act the way you want.
Wow, when you put it like that, it does sound pretty freeing. But then, okay, so you let go. How does that turn into actually taking control? Like, that's where the let me comes in, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like two sides of the same coin. You let them do their thing, and then you use let me to focus on what you can actually do. Your actions, how you react to things, your whole mindset.
So it's kind of like saying, okay, they can have their opinions, they can make their own choices, but I'm going to focus on building the life that I want. It's about taking responsibility, right, for your own happiness and well-being.
You got it. And that's where the whole stress management thing comes in. Dr. Aditi Nerurkar, I think Robbins quotes her in the book. She talks about how stress basically triggers our survival mode, that whole fight or flight response, which, hey, it's useful if you're in actual danger. But for like everyday stuff, it just makes things worse.
Totally. When you're all stressed out, you're not thinking straight. And you're definitely not making good decisions, especially not for the long term.
Exactly. You're just reacting, not really in control. And that's why the let them idea is so powerful, especially for stress. When you decide to let go of controlling what you can't control, it's like you're telling your body, hey, it's okay to chill out now.
Like hitting the reset button on your stress. Right. Instead of that whole cycle of worry and frustration, you take a step back, breathe, and then choose how you want to react instead of just, reacting.
Right. And that's what creates space for the let me to come in. You can actually focus on solving the problem, finding creative solutions, or even just taking care of yourself when things are crazy.
It's almost like mindfulness, isn't it? Paying attention to how you're reacting and then making a choice.
Exactly. Wow. And that's how real change happens, that shift in how you see things. It's a foundation for everything else Robbins talks about.
Yeah.
Like dealing with tough relationships, finding love, setting boundaries, and, building a life that actually reflects what you care about, what you want.
So, okay, we've got this let them let me thing, this idea of taking control by kind of surrendering control, which still feels a little weird to me, honestly. But how does that actually work in real life? Like, what about a job that's just, toxic?
Oh, yeah. Robbins gets into the nitty-gritty there. She talks about feeling stuck, like maybe your boss keeps promising a promotion but never delivers. It's so easy to fall into that trap of trying to change them, to work even harder, prove yourself.
Tell me about it. I would totally be overthinking every little thing, every conversation, trying to guess what they're thinking, like some kind of office mind game. It's exhausting, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it usually doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Because you can't actually control what your boss does or thinks, no matter how hard you try. That's where let them comes in. It's about accepting that. Like, that's just reality.
But doesn't that mean, like, giving up, just accepting that you're stuck? I feel like this is where the let me part has to come in, right?
Bingo. You let them string you along, but you let yourself focus on what you can control. What skills can you learn? What other opportunities are out there, even if it means leaving that job?
So you're shifting from, like, how do I make my boss see my worth, to what can I do to move my career forward no matter what my boss does.
Exactly. Robbins really challenges you to think about, what am I responsible for here? Maybe it's updating your resume, or networking, or finding a mentor, or even starting a side hustle to learn something new, build some skills. It's about your own growth, not waiting for someone else to give you permission.
I love that shift. It's so empowering. It's like taking that power back from this like all-powerful boss figure and saying, no, I'm in charge of my own career.
Exactly. You're the CEO of your own journey, nobody else.
Okay, so work is tricky, but at least it's kind of contained, you know?
Yeah.
What about those social situations, the ones that just pop up out of nowhere, where you see something that like clashes with your values?
Robbins has this story about a dog owner at a park who just keeps ignoring the leash rules. It's a small thing, but it shows how easy it is to get caught up judging other people.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. You see someone being inconsiderate and your brain just goes into overdrive. Like you start making up a whole story about their personality, who they are as a person.
Right, and that's where Robbins first tries the let them approach. Let them walk their dog off leash. It's not your job to be the park police.
Yeah, choose your battles, right? Focus on enjoying your own walk. Don't let someone else ruin your day. But there's a twist here, isn't there? This is where let them gets a little more, I don't know, complicated.
You got it. Robbins realized that just letting it go wasn't sitting right with her. This dog owner kept breaking the rules, and it actually started to affect her enjoyment of the park. She even worried that the park might ban dogs altogether because of this one person.
So it became more than just a personal annoyance. It was affecting the whole community. And that's where the let me comes back in.
Exactly. You let them be inconsiderate, but you let yourself explore what you can do. In this case, it meant reporting the behavior to the park authorities. Not to punish the dog owner, but to protect the park itself so everyone can enjoy it.
So it's not about being passive or just accepting bad behavior. It's about choosing the most effective response, which sometimes means taking action. And the let them mindset, it helps you detach from that initial emotional reaction so you can see the situation more clearly.
It's about asking yourself, is this actually affecting me? Is it worth my energy to get involved? And if it is, what's the best way to handle it?
It's like that saying, pick your battles. But it's not just about avoiding conflict, it's about choosing the battles that really matter to you, the ones where you can actually make a difference.
Which brings us to another area where let them can be super helpful. Dealing with judgment, especially for the people closest to us, like friends and family.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. It's like you finally get the courage to try something new, start a business, make a big change, and then you get hit with this wave of, what will everyone think?
Robbins talks about that herself. She waited 2 years to share her speaking career on social media because she was so scared of what her friends would say.
2 years? That's crazy, but it shows how powerful that fear of judgment can be. I'm guessing this is where let them becomes permission to be yourself.
Exactly. It's about realizing that you can't control what other people think, and more importantly, their opinions don't define you or your dreams.
So it's like saying, okay, they can think what they want, they can judge, they can gossip, but I'm going to do this anyway because it matters to me. It's about finding validation from within, not relying on what other people think. What matters is your passion, your drive, your commitment to what you want to do.
And that goes for family too, right? They can be your biggest supporters, but also sometimes your harshest critics, especially when you make choices they don't agree with about your career, relationships, lifestyle.
It's like they've known you for so long, they feel like they have a right to comment on everything.
And Robbins gets how tricky that can be, especially in blended families.
Oh yeah, step-parents, step-children, everyone trying to figure out their place. It can feel like walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger anyone's judgment or resentment.
And that's where let them becomes about compassion and understanding. It's realizing that everyone comes into the situation with their own baggage, their own past experiences, their own fears and insecurities.
So let them have their doubts, let them express their concerns, let them grieve what they've lost, the family structure they used to have. It's about giving everyone space to process without judging them.
And then comes the let me part. Let me be patient. Let me be understanding. Let me show kindness, even when it's hard. Let me focus on building real connections, one interaction at a time.
And she mentions this tool from Lisa Bilyeu, frame of reference. It's like putting on special glasses to see the world through someone else's eyes.
It's about understanding that everyone acts based on their own experiences, their own frame of reference. What seems crazy or hurtful to you might make perfect sense from their perspective based on their past.
Robbins talks about her own mom initially not liking her husband.
Right. And it was only by understanding her mom's frame of reference, like her experiences with family and closeness, being geographically close, that Robbins could let go of the hurt and see her mom's actions in a different light, with more compassion.
It's like that saying, hurt people, but it's also about realizing that sometimes what looks like judgment is actually fear or sadness or wanting to connect.
So let them, and frame of reference, they're tools for breaking down those walls of judgment, building bridges of understanding even in the toughest family situations.
It's about accepting that we can't change other people's minds, but we can choose how we react to them. And sometimes the best response is understanding, compassion, and trying to see things from their point of view.
It's a powerful shift. And that's what we'll explore more in part 3, how let them plays out in adult friendships, the whole finding love thing, and how to deal with wanting the people we love to change, which can be, it can be really hard.
So we've talked about work, those awkward social situations, and the whole family thing. But honestly, one of the hardest things as an adult, I think, is friendships. It's not as easy as it was when we were kids, right?
It's so true. It's like everyone's life just explodes in different directions. Robbins calls it the great scattering.
Yeah.
You finish school, maybe move to a new city, careers take off, people get married, have kids. It's like life just pulls everyone apart.
Yeah, it's like we're all suddenly playing different games with different rules and goals. And trying to find your people when everyone's scattered all over the place, it's tough. Robbins actually talks about how lonely it felt moving to a new town in her 50s, with like 0 built-in friends, no network or anything.
Well, I bet. Starting from scratch like that, it's intimidating. She talks about these 3 pillars of friendship. I thought they were really interesting. Proximity, timing, and energy. Proximity is huge, especially as adults. Like you need to actually be near people to build those close connections.
Makes sense. It's hard to just grab coffee or hang out when your friends are states away. I think Robbins said it takes, 200 hours of shared experience to really bond with someone? That's a lot of coffee dates.
It is. And then there's the timing aspect. We tend to connect with people who are in the same life stage. Like think about college friends who drift apart because some focus on careers while others start families.
It's not that you don't care anymore. It's just your lives are on different timelines. It can be hard to relate when you're not going through the same things day to day.
And then energy. As we change and grow, our energy changes too. The friend who was perfect for you in college, maybe they're not the best fit 10 years later. Your interests shift, your priorities change. It's normal.
It's like that quote, some people are in your life for a reason, some for a season, some for a lifetime. Figuring out which is which, that's the tricky part, especially when a friendship starts to feel one-sided or just draining.
Robbins is really honest about her own struggles with that. She tells this story about feeling left out of a friend group and how her own insecurities, her jealousy, it actually pushed people away.
I think we've all been there, wanting to fit in so badly that we end up messing things up. It's a good reminder that sometimes our own baggage is the biggest obstacle to having good relationships.
And that's where let them comes in, even with friendships. It's about giving people the space to live their lives, make their own choices, to prioritize what's important to them, even if it doesn't always include you.
So let them be busy, let them chase their dreams, let them move on if that's what they need. It almost sounds like you're pushing people away, which seems counterintuitive.
It seems that way, but it's actually the opposite. By letting go of that need to control the relationship, you make space for real connection. And that's where let me comes in. Let me focus on building new friendships, on putting myself out there, even if it's awkward.
She has some good tips on making friends as an adult, which can be, it can be awkward. It's about being the one to reach out, to start conversations, even if it feels a little scary.
And remember, everyone else is in the same boat. There are tons of people looking for connection. Someone out there is probably wishing you would say hi.
I love that. It's like opening yourself up to a world of possibilities. Your future best friend could be right around the corner, just waiting for you to make the first move.
Speaking of new connections, let's talk about finding love. Robbins gets real about how dating works these days, with apps and social media changing everything.
It's like this constant cycle of swiping and filtering, everyone trying to be perfect. It's exhausting and kind of makes you lose hope,
I know, it's easy to get caught up in trying to control how you come across, building this perfect persona that you think will make you more likable, more attractive. But Robbins really emphasizes being authentic, letting people see the real you, even the messy parts.
Because that's how you find people who actually get you, who appreciate you for who you are. It's about letting go of that need to please everyone and trusting that the right person will see your worth.
And she also talks about the importance of saying no to the wrong relationships. Even if it means being single for a while, you'll never find the right person if you're constantly settling for less than you deserve.
It's about spotting those red flags early, those mixed signals, the lack of effort.
Robbins says, if they like you, you'll know. If they don't, you'll be confused. So let them be confusing, let them fade away, let them choose someone else. But let yourself move on and find someone who's clear about their feelings, who actually wants to be with you.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the potential of what could be, even when the reality is like right in front of you.
And that same idea applies even in long-term relationships, the ones you've already built. We all want to see our partners grow, adopt healthier habits, pursue their dreams. But trying to force that change, Robbins says it usually backfires.
It's like that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can nag, plead, manipulate all you want, but ultimately, they have to want to change.
Robbins gets into the science behind it. We have this deep need to feel in control. And when someone tries to force us, it triggers resistance. We dig in our heels even more.
Just to prove we're still the ones calling the shots, right?
Yeah.
But it creates this tension, this resentment that can damage even the strongest relationships.
So then what? Do we just sit back and watch our loved ones make choices we don't agree with?
That doesn't feel very good or very loving.
Robbins says there's a middle ground. She talks about the difference between trying to change someone's behavior, which you can't, and influencing it, which you can.
Okay, so how do we do that? Influence without pressure, without those tactics that we know don't work?
She has this framework called the ABC loop. Apologize, then ask, back off, observe behavior, celebrate progress while you model change.
It's like a roadmap for creating an environment where change can happen naturally. Instead of telling someone what they should do, you're inviting them to figure out what they want to do.
You start by acknowledging your own part in any past conflicts, apologizing for trying to control them, and then you ask questions to understand their side. What are their goals? What's holding them back? What kind of support do they need?
So it's about shifting from judgment to curiosity, from criticism to empathy, making them feel heard and understood instead of attacked.
And then, the hard part, you back off.
Yeah.
You let go of that need to control the outcome, and you trust that they can make their own choices.
That's where the let them comes full circle, realizing that even the people we love most, they're ultimately responsible for their own lives. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is step back and let them learn from their own experiences.
It's hard to watch someone you care about struggle, especially when you think you know better. But rescuing someone often prevents them from growing. It reinforces that they can't handle things on their own.
It's about offering support without enabling, being there for them without solving all their problems. It's about saying, I believe in you, I'm here for you, but I trust you to figure this out.
And sometimes that means letting go of relationships that aren't working anymore. Robbins says this is one of the hardest planks of the let them theory, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, those deep, intimate bonds.
Yeah, letting go of a casual friend is one thing, but letting go of someone you love, someone you've built a life with, that's a whole different level of heartbreak.
Robbins doesn't pretend it's easy. She talks about the importance of letting yourself grieve, feeling all those emotions, seeking support from people who care about you.
And she encourages you to imagine a future where this heartbreak, this pain, it leads you to a place of deeper self-awareness, stronger boundaries, and eventually a love that truly aligns with who you are.
It's a reminder that even the most painful experiences can help us grow, help us change. And letting go, it's not about giving up, it's about choosing yourself, choosing a life that's more authentic, more fulfilling.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mel Robbins' Let Them theory, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
I think it's this. You are not responsible for other people's happiness, their choices, their outcomes. You're only responsible for your own. And by embracing the let them, you free yourself to focus on the let me, to build a life that reflects your values, your passions, your dreams.
It's a powerful message about taking responsibility for your own life and finding freedom in that. And as Robin says, the life you create, full of meaningful relationships, joy, and fulfillment, it all starts with how you choose to love yourself.
So ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's no longer serving you? What would it look like to loosen your grip, embrace the let them, and make space for the let me? The answers, like always, are within you.